All right, everybody, it's Thursday, May 28th. We're going to continue working on data. Let's look at this graph that was shared with us. What sort of things are being measured here? You're smart to go to the title. It says that's a monthly budget. So we think of a budget usually frequently having to do with the amount of money that is being spent on something. And if I look down to how the horizontal axis is labeled at the bottom, it says amount spent, and that's in dollars. And then I look to the left and I see that these are the items money is being spent on. And it's just for a month. So what was the most expensive thing for the month? Rent. Rent was around $1,000. So that's what's being paid to live in the home for the month. How about food? Especially now, look at that. That's between $600 and $800. You see this right here? So seems midway between, wouldn't you say that's about $700? So in this case, transportation was the least expensive. It's the shortest bar, that's why I can tell that. Rent was the most expensive. And then there are some things in between. How much does each section or interval stand for on this bar graph? So from one line to the next. You can't always just look at these two numbers. You have to kind of keep looking down to double check that your thinking is accurate. But you might see that each time we move an interval or a section, we're going up by 200. That's why when you look at a graph, don't just look so quick. Look and study it. Here's another type of graph. It might remind you of both the other graphs we've worked with, the bar graph and the picture graph. And it has some similarities and it has some differences. This graph is called, I should say, a line plot. Now, just like the bar graph having bars on it made it easy for us to remember the name, and the picture graph having pictures on it, easy to remember the name, this graph is on a line with X's plotted on it. Sometimes X's, sometimes dots, sometimes other things, but usually like an individual mark, an X or a dot or something like that. So in this line plot, you can see that there's a line. On this line, we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have a title. We've talked about how helpful that is in our graphs. So this is books checked out. Can you think of who might use data like this? The data is plotted or placed on this graph. And it's placed in an organized and systematic and fair way. So for example, if we look at the first X above each of the numbers, do you notice that they all start the same distance above the number? Similarly, if I draw a line above two X's, do you see how I can compare all of those? They're all lined up together. So you can also look at this and go, here is the tallest column of X's, representing 4 books checked out. You can also look at a line plot and count the number of X's, and this would probably tell us that 1, 2, 3, 4 people, so this would be 4 people, because each X's would be a person, checked out 6 books. I know some people that are the 6-book checker-outer. 4 was the most common number of books for an individual to pick out, and so I could look and I could go, oh, I know up to here is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we would say 9 people checked out 4 books. Does that make sense? How to read our line plot. So we have our title, we have the number of books checked out, and each X is standing for a person who checked out that number of books. Let's use this data and build our own line plot. So here's a tally chart again, and it's the number of gold medals won by elementary schools in a district. So we're going to have the number of gold medals, how many schools won that number of gold medals. So for here, we have 1 gold medal won, and there were 6 schools that won 1 gold medal. 2 gold medals won, there were 3 schools. 3 gold medals won, there were 10 schools, and 4 gold medals won, there were 5 schools. So what do you think we would put on our line plot? Well, you're right to think that we're going to need a line. I would prefer it to not be yellow. What numbers do you think we're going to need on our line? I think we just need 1, 2, 3, 4. It's right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what are those numbers standing for? What can I label them with? Don't think about it too hard. Look at the labels already given to it. Number of gold medals. That's what we're going to write down here. Number of gold medals. So now I'm going to use X's to represent. So remember that we looked up here and there were 6 schools that won 1 gold medal. So here's my 1 gold medal, and I need 6 X's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 2 gold medals, 3 schools. So I kind of want to make sure that I'm lining them up with these over here. You see, so I want to space them evenly. 2, 3. 3 gold medals was 10. Oh boy. So I'm going to line them up. There's my 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to go over the problem, but see how this lines up pretty well there. 7, 8, 9, 10. This is where I'll stop and tell you it's important when you're working on a line plot to start low on your page. I should have started a little bit lower. 4 gold medals was 5. I do want to look over here to see where I left off with 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can kind of see that that's going to line up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our line plot. What would our title be? Don't think too hard. There it is, right over there in that other column. I'm going to shift colors, I think. So without room, I'm going to write it out. Gold medals 1. And if I were to do this over or had more space, I would make sure that I started lower to have room for my titles. So if we have that as our line plot, we can answer a few questions. We can figure out how many schools are in the district by counting up the number here. We had 1, 2, 3, let's switch colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 3. This one was 10, and this one was 5. So if we put all that back together, we have 24 schools. Just like I ask of you to put a label with all your numbers, I'm going to do that too. How many schools won 4 gold medals? 5 schools won 4 gold medals. How many more, oh that's important, schools won 3 gold medals than 1 gold medal? So for 3 gold medals, there was 10. And 1 gold medal, there was 6. So that would be 4 more schools. 3 gold medals. So it's one thing to be able to build and represent your data in a graph, line plot, bar graph, or picture graph, and it's another thing to be able to analyze or look over that data and answer some questions. All right, for Thursday's work, please work in workbook B, pages 75 and 76. Review your thinking with someone at home. There will be some seesaw task for you. Uh-oh, I didn't change that. There'll be seesaw, not real life time from last week. It will be seesaw graph work and an exit ticket. Continue your work on those math tiles.